welcome to SAP Insider Technology Insights. I'm Craig Powers, Research Analyst at SAP Insider, and today I am joined by Cliff Jurkiewicz, VP of Global Strategy at Phenom. It's great to have you, Cliff. Please introduce yourself and your company.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Craig. As you said, my name is Cliff Jurkiewicz. I head up strategy here at Phenom. Phenom, we are a talent experience marketing company, and our goal is to help 1 billion people find the right job. And what we've done is created a platform to be able to help candidates and recruiters stay connected and engaged and create experiences that drive talent acquisition and retention.
Awesome. So what I really want to get in with you is about candidate experience management. And so what does that mean and why is it so important today?
I think the most important thing about candidate experience is the replication of what we as individuals do every day as consumers, or just in our personal lives and connecting with technology. So everything that we do now is based on an experience. Good experience, bad experience. And what we've tried to do is look at that consumer space and say, how can we replicate those companies that have really innovated experience to engage and attract and built a platform around experience to be able to do that. So the important piece here is making sure that you're always looking at what candidates are doing as consumers and trying to replicate that, because those habits and behaviors are already built in. You don't have to retrain, just build on that and deliver.
Great. Yeah, that's a great philosophy. Give people an experience that they're used to every day when they're going to apply for a job, when they're looking for a new role. So on that topic, what's challenging about building a great candidate experience, building that consumer candidate experience, and where do people maybe get it wrong now?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is probably the assumption that you can leverage all of the same product and service marketing principles. And whilst there is some overlap there, people aren't products. And so we're looking at ways to really make that personal connection. When you have an experience, the most important thing to understand is people will, and candidates in particular, will stay engaged if they find value in the experience. And much like, you look at your iPhone or Android, whatever device that you're using, and you have probably a core of 6 to 8 applications that you use every day because they add value for you. And so that value add proposition can be hard to discover if you're not reaching out to companies like Phenom to understand how this space has evolved. And I think that the second biggest issue is really just being able to tell your story in a clear, concise way. There's a lot of opportunity to build a big behemoth of an experience. That won't work. Today's audience, you have about somewhere between 8 and 12 seconds to capture them before they decide to either stay with you or move on. And so the part of that value proposition is you need to really be thinking outside in. How do you meet the candidate on their ground, on their level, in their language? How are you going to help them find work that's meaningful to them in your organization? Which is the reverse of what it was even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, where it was, here's a search, go figure it out, then let me know what you want. It's much more of a guided tour and it's much more personalized.
Absolutely. And it seems like with candidate experience, you're setting that tone for when they work for you. That's their first impression of your company from the inside. And so how does candidate experience relate to your employee experience, and how might that not just impact talent acquisition, recruiting, but also retention?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point again, and you're bringing up some really great stuff here. The first email that a candidate is going to get from you, they might apply to a job, they might join a talent community, something of that nature. The first email they'll typically get is a thanks, but no thanks. We've looked at your application, the position's been filled or whatever. What tone does that set? They're never going to come back, right? So if you are speaking on their level, it is the very first thing that they understand is, wow, they're actually really interested in finding something that works for me. When we design candidate experience, I always tell my clients, design the candidate experience for the person that doesn't get the job, because 95, 96, 97% won't. Nobody has that many positions open, right? So if you're doing that, what you're saying to those that do get hired is you're carrying that personalization through. And if you've got the ability to create a better employee experience, which we at Phenom do, and it is very important for us to make sure that the relationship between the experience that you get coming in the front door is continued and built on, so that okay, I'm here, now where can I go, right? Show me a path, show me several paths, allow me to make some decisions and support me along the way. That's how you retain great talent with great skills, is to let them make those decisions, but give them the tools to help them analyze what's possible.
And on the side, you were talking about tools. So how are these how's the technology, how about and your own technology partnerships evolving to make all this you're talking about, this innovation in talent acquisition and retention, candidate experience possible?
Well, I think from a technology perspective, we have to look at the very first thing is, are we complementing or are we competing? Do we do it better or do we do it differently? We think of things as what we do as being different. There are a lot of great players in this space, and we have some great partners as well. And so we look to complement what they're already doing to bring that level of experience and engagement, things that, we've been doing this for a decade. And we were the first company to really introduce AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning into talent acquisition and retention. And so we have that level of experience. What we don't do today, we're not looking to do tomorrow. This is our wheelhouse, right? The value proposition of this company is really helping people, find meaningful work that they're passionate about. So we'll continue that layer of experience and engagement, but there are necessary systems out there to do process management, to do record keeping, to be compliant and all of those things. Those are all really good partners for us, because those aren't things that we want to do. And we have partners in other areas that do things that we're not doing today, like assessments, for example, and talking about those things. So it is how can we marry all of these different functions to create two things? The first is a unified experience for candidates, of course, for recruiters, of course, for leaders in organizations, but also to harmonize data, because that's probably an equal problem. Is you can unify experience, but if you're not harmonizing the data between these technologies, then you're losing something along the way. So those two things are really key when we think about creating these technology ecosystems.
Great. And now, what's your part in that? How do you help customers? What solutions, services do you have that are relevant to building great candidate experiences?
Yeah, so when we think of candidate experience, we first think of how do you build and maintain that experience. And so with our career sites, from a recruiting and talent marketing perspective, we've built a bespoke, purpose-driven content management system that gives recruiters and talent marketers just tons of tools, including your WCAG compliance, SEO analyzation, military translator, all of the drag and drop widgets that you'd expect to see. Don't need any high skills in coding. Of course, if you do, there are widgets that can help you if you want to hard code stuff. But it is really, how do we help them build great experiences and then analyze the effectiveness of that in real time. And that's a really important thing. From the candidate perspective, what they see is that unified experience. They don't care about data. Nobody asks how Waze works. It just does, right? And it's super easy to use. It's super easy to interact with, and you see the value in it. And so from a candidate perspective, we do something that nobody else does, which is that hyper personalization. As you are working your way through the experience, you don't just see a simple job search. You see, a chatbot that's having a conversation with you, drawing out new information. You're willingly giving it because you see the more information I give, the more specific these recommendations get. And that's really important to get people connected to work, especially in really large organizations that might have hundreds of positions open. How do I narrow down what's right for me right now? What am I going to have the best shot at when that goes to the recruiter? So that experience and the ease of use is really important, but seeing the value in it is certainly, paramount. Otherwise, they won't continue the journey.
So when it comes to value, what are the business requirements that your solutions are addressing for your customers?
Well, I mean, the business requirements are going to obviously vary client to client, but we'll look at some top level stuff and we'll think about, do you have an attraction problem versus a conversion problem? An attraction is, I don't know how to get my message or story out there. It's never really been told, or I'm competing with a lot of people in that space. And so again, we'll solve for that. A lot of our clients don't have attraction problems. They actually have conversion problems. They're bringing a lot of candidates to the front door. And the analogy I use is, it's almost like the difference between putting your job advert on a billboard against a busy highway and hoping somebody in a passing car jots the number or email address down, or just answer the front door of the people that are knocking on your career site. But you'd be surprised at the look in, and what clients will say to us is, well, I've got a sourcing issue. Well, you don't. You get 100,000 people a month coming to your career site, and you get 2,000 applicants. You're missing 98,000 people that you can be talking to. And that's what we solve for. So that's that front end business requirement, is like, where does the problem really sit, so that we can hyper focus on that and solve that day one. Down the road, we look at, again, we talk about that data harmonization piece. We see lots of clients will they examine or they buy a lot of point solutions. There's nothing wrong with point solutions. There's a lot of really, really great ones out there. But when it comes to the back end and harmonizing that data stream, all of the data that's coming through, we look at that as a business requirement for us. We have to solve that problem. You have to have unified real-time intelligence in order to understand what's happening in your talent acquisition and retention, operation. So we'll solve for that as well. So those are two of the basic ones. Where are you losing up front? Where are the candidates dropping off? And then once they're in, are they actually following the right path? And is that data stream telling you the right story so that you can make good business decisions?
How are your customers measuring success with your solutions, and how are they benefiting from their work with you?
I think it probably evolves over time. Initially on Go Live, the first, I would say 90 days or so, we're really looking at, how many leads we're getting in the system, because most of our clients have never really had the opportunity to generate their own lead funnel. How are we converting leads to applicants? Typically we see a rise in as much, averages, 9% of all traffic turns into an applicant, without Phenom. With Phenom, we're in the 30 to 40% range. And so that conversion rate is really important. But the difference being, we're looking at what we would call matched applicants, because our AI and ML is looking for work for them and matching them to it. So that's a big one. The other one is huge, which is time to fill. We have a mission, to get to, in some cases, single day time to fill on certain roles. Other ones, you're looking at what used to be a 45-day cycle for maybe a knowledge worker. We're trying to get 5 to 7 days. So we're looking at that time to fill. If you're not filling a role, within a week, either you don't have a big enough audience, or you don't have automations to help you sort who's great and who might not be a good fit right now, but for something else. So automations are a big piece of what we're measuring, the use of the automations, and the adoption of the platform. So that's the first 90 days. Over time, we're looking at, okay, how are we evolving the TA function, the talent acquisition and retention function? How are we increasing engagement? What tools are coming on into the platform? What are other things that you can use? Are you really leveraging our chatbot in the right way? Do you want to add text messaging? Do you want to add career pathing or succession planning, or mentoring, or ERG, employee resource groups from a DE&I perspective? These are all capabilities within our platform. And what we want to do is roll them out in a time that makes sense, going back to that change management piece. Too much, too fast, can kill momentum. So these are all things that we look at evolving and innovating, as well as what we do, evolving and innovating just the capabilities in the platform. We do monthly releases, so we're always listening to our clients saying, what would work for you? And I would say at least half of what we built in the platform over the last 5 years are ideas that have come from our clients.
Great. And do you have an example of a client specifically, that kind of shows their innovation, the lessons learned they've had in building a candidate experience?
Yeah, I mean, without naming the client, what I can say is, we actually have several clients, but one in particular, that is an airline that rolled out our chatbot, and with our interview scheduling, we have AI interview scheduling built into the platform. And they saved 24,000 hours last year of interview time. And that was time that they were able to put back into recruiting functions, just people connecting with other people versus managing systems. That is the greatest success story for us. When we look at SAP in particular, and we think about our ability to convert applicants, I mean, you're talking about 100% more lead generation than they were able to do previously. And the conversion rate on the SAP platform, we often see applicant conversion rates in the 75 to 85% range, coming from what was 9 to 16%. And that's literally just doing what we do every day, and the client doesn't have to do anything different. And that's the real key to all of this: is where can we create experiences that aren't a duplication of effort, because that'll slow us down. So the interview scheduling was really big. That tends to be 60% of a recruiter's time these days. And if you can automate that, then you're putting that time back in their schedule. This particular client put 2.5 days of time per week back in their recruiter schedule. And so instead of having to hire more recruiters, the recruiters just became really much more efficient with their time in connecting with individuals. So really great success story there, and one of many that we have.
Well, Cliff, I really appreciate you joining me today. A lot of great insights on candidate experience and just HR technology overall. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Craig. It's been a pleasure.